Today's lesson is not a new lesson. It's a review of every different way we've learned to write linear equations in slope-intercept form based on the information provided to us. All right? So down below, I have reminded you that slope-intercept form is the same as y equals mx plus b. If you would please write this at the top of your paper, and then identify that the slope is the m and the y-intercept is the b. And notice that I also wrote an ordered pair under here, 0, comma b. And that is how the y-intercept looks as an ordered pair. All right? Let's go right into the first kind, which is writing the equation if they give us a slope and a y-intercept. Okay, so here's my slope, 1/3. So we are starting from y equals mx plus b. If they give me the m, then I'm going to plug it in where the m is. All right, the y-intercept is -5. That is b. So if they give me the b, I'm going to plug it in where the b is. And then I'm going to bring down y equals x. And that's it. That's my final answer. Okay? So I have color-coded so that you can see where these numbers went. Let me fix my box so it doesn't cut off my slope. There we go. Awesome. So by now that should be super easy and super simple. Okay, let's practice doing one from a graph. If you remember that from the graph, the first point that I try to identify is the point where it crosses the y-axis. That is the value of my b. So in this case, it is -1 because it is down 1 from the origin. Next, I need to identify my slope. So I start at the point on the left. It looks like I'm going to go down 2 and over 5. So down 2 over 5. Now some people at this point are starting to forget which number goes on top and which number goes on bottom. So I want you to remember the words that can help you with slope, which is rise over run. So the rise is when you go up and down, so that's -2. The run is going left to right, and that is 5. Okay? And so that is my slope. Perfect. So now we're going to do what we did for the first problem. So given my y equals mx plus b, I'm going to take my b and plug it in right there. I'm going to take my m, which is -2 over 5, plug it in for the m. And then finally, you just are going to bring down your y and your x. I'm sorry, your y and your equals and your x. And that is our answer. I'm not doing very good with these boxes, so I'm just going to leave it off. All right, but that's my answer. Y equals -2/5 x minus 1. Okay, let's go look at our third way that we learn to write the equation of a line. And I would like you to add this note into the side margin of your review sheet. Okay, it says, or it should say, we don't have to find the slope or the y-intercept. We just need to rearrange this into the correct form. Okay, so what I'm going to do for this one is show all my work in this little box over here. 4x minus 2y equals 14. Alrighty, so the value that I want to solve for is the y. If you remember, y equals mx plus b, so I want the y value to be all by itself. So I am going to begin by getting rid of the ax term, okay? If you remembered what we learned about standard form, it looked like ax plus by equals c, and I am now asking you to convert to slope-intercept form, okay? So I'm going to start by moving this first. So minus 4x from both sides. And this is where we do always want to make a note because it's where the majority of people make a mistake. Okay, these are not like terms. So these are not like terms, so you cannot combine them. All right? So what I get left with is just negative 4x plus 14. So you can't combine them, but you can just put them right there side by side. All right? Okay, and then my next step is going to be to divide by the number in front of the y. So the number in front of the y here is a negative 2, and you need to divide every single thing by negative 2. And when you simplify this, you will now have y equals negative 4 divided by negative 2 is positive 2. 14 divided by negative 2 is negative 7. And that is your final answer. Okay? All right. Now, when you go to the back side of your paper, there are actually 4 practice examples that deal with going from standard form to slope-intercept form, okay? Because so many students do struggle with this. All right, let's look at our next example. Now, on your paper, you do not have a graph, nor do you have the space to graph these. So that is okay. Even though it won't be written in your notes, I know that you all are very comfortable with the graphing method. So I am going to just demonstrate this example both ways, but I want you to make certain that you have the algebraic method written down in your review, okay? So I'm going to start with the graphing method. To do the graphing method, the very first thing I'm going to do is plot the point -1, 3. Okay? I plotted my point. My next step is going to be to use my slope, which is -3 over 1, to plot a new point. So -3, +1, and then I plot a point here. Now, because it's on the y-axis, that will be my y-intercept. Okay? So that is b equals 0. All right, so now to write the final equation, I do y equals -3x, and then the plus 0, okay? But then just remember that for your final answer, all you have to do is put y equals -3x, and that's it. Easy breezy doing it on the graph. It's also easy breezy doing the algebraic method. So what I'm going to do is write my slope-intercept form of this equation. I am going to identify my x and y values from the ordered pair, and I'm going to plug them in the correct place. -1 goes here, 3 goes here, My slope is -3. Whoops. Okay, so now I'm going to put equals. One of those needs to be in parentheses, so I remember to multiply and bring down my plus b. Now what I'm going to do is multiply those. -3 times -1 is +3. I'll subtract 3 from both sides. And I do get b equals 0. Okay, and so again, just my final equation here would be b equals -3x. All right, fantastic job. And our last one right here. If I give you 2 points, can you write the equation of the line? So let's do it first with the graphing method. Remember, the graphing method tells you to plot both of these points. So I'm going to count over 8 and then go down 13. And I plotted that point, and now I'm going to do -4, -7. All right, so I have both of my points that they gave me plotted. Okay, so what I'm going to do next is figure out what the slope is. So I'm going to do rise and run. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's a down 6, and then over 4. My rise is -6, and my run is 4. And that will simplify to give me -3/2. So I now know my slope. All right, I'm going to back up just for a minute and try again. I plotted my point -4, -7 incorrectly. -4, -7 is actually right here. Okay, so let me erase this. And just these numbers here, and let's see what this will actually come out to be with these correct points. Okay, so whoops. Now you guys obviously again can't put this on your paper, so you're just watching for now, and then we're going to do the algebraic method in just a minute. Okay, so I'm going down 6 and over 12. So -6 over 12 is -1/2. There we go. So now we have a slope. The next thing I'm going to do is to connect these points and try to figure out where they crossed over the y-axis. And it looks like it might be right here. I'm going to use my slope really quick just to make sure that I did this correctly, that I graphed it correctly. So I'm going to go down 1 over 2, down 1 over 2. So it will definitely cross the y-axis right there. And that is at -9. Perfect. So I'm going to take my slope and my y-intercept, and then I'm going to just plug them in here. So my b is -9. Slope is -1/2. So there's my equation. Perfect. So we all make mistakes with plotting our points, just not paying attention to our negatives or positives. So just be careful doing the graphing method. One tiny little mistake can get you to a wrong answer. Okay? That is true even with our algebraic method though as well. So let's go take a look at our final example before you work on the 12 questions on the back side. So we are going to do this given 2 points. Now you do need to remember that the slope formula, okay, is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Okay, so what I'm going to do is -7 minus -13, and then on the bottom I will have, let me just use gray, -7 and 8. I'm sorry, -4 minus 8. Okay. -7 plus 13, okay, because those two negatives right there will give me a positive 6 on top. -4 minus 8 is going to give me a -12 on bottom, which does reduce to a -1/2. So that's my slope. Okay, next I need to use my slope. So m is -1/2. And then I need to use an ordered pair. I always pick the second one, so let's just use that. Be sure that you identify the x value and the y value in the ordered pair. And then let's plug them in to here. Okay, so my y value is -13. My m is -1/2. My x value is an 8. Okay. And now I am going to do -1 times 8 is -8. 2 times 1 is 2. And so -8 divided by 2 is going to give me a -4. So -4 plus b equals -13. And then let's add 4 to both sides. And that will give me -9 equals b, which is my y-intercept. So now I take my y-intercept, I take my slope, and I'm going to plug them all in to y equals -1/2 x minus 9. Alrighty, and that is the exact same answer that we got just a minute ago when we did our graphing method. -1/2 x minus 9. Alright, fantastic job. What I'd like for you to do now is to work independently to complete the left side of the review on the back of this paper. So numbers 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, and 11. All right? Independently complete those odd numbers.